Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Gillian Morris. Welcome to my home in Brooklyn, New York. Come in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name is Gillian Morris, and I am a software developer turned writer, and I am writing a book about communal living, and we're here in my communal home in Brooklyn. It's a 4-story brownstone. I am a deep believer in the idea of it takes a village to raise a family. I think we're meant to live together. I think most humans have. And so I just don't buy into this sort of American ideal that we need to go off and isolate and get our own place to grow up. So I believe right now we're a community of 5 adults from 29 to 45 who choose to live together as roommates. Yes, there are cost savings, but mostly we want to live together because we really enjoy sharing our lives and helping each other out. So the relationship between me and everyone who lives here, I have been living this way for 10 years now. So a lot of people I had lived with before in other communal places, there's this really, really rich culture of communal living houses all over the world. I've lived in about 10. I have stayed in communal homes in Berlin and Amsterdam and Costa Rica. I used to live in Puerto Rico. I still spend part of my time there, and half the people in this house lived in Puerto Rico in that house before. I moved back to New York and initially just got some roommates, and I just remember thinking, this is the biggest part of my budget, but I had a pretty objectively terrible place. Like, I didn't want to spend any time at home. And so when the lease was up, I started thinking about what would it cost and how would it be possible to have a place that is a home that I'm excited to come home to, that I'm excited to cook dinner for my friends and hang out. But I just posted on Facebook and found these amazing, amazing apartments that were the cost of like 4 one-bedroom apartments or 5 one-bedroom apartments. And then I was like, look at this crazy brownstone we can get in Manhattan for the same price if we just choose to. And so I posted this, and there were some really beautiful properties, and it seemed to catch people's imagination, and hundreds of people commented on that post. At the end of a very long search process, 3 of us who signed on to rent the top half of a brownstone in Gramercy in 2015. And that was how it all started. Hello, welcome to the main living area, the 2nd floor. So we have our giant couch, which is great for movie watching and hanging out. We have some plants that are in various states of health. I'm not great with plants. This is, one of the things I'd like to work on. But also, amusingly, a bunch of them are from another communal house, a group of people. They had a beautiful brownstone in Bed-Stuy. It was 8 of them, and the landlord terminated their lease, and they ended up buying a place, and they're renovating it. And I think it's 2 couples and a couple single people. And so while they're renovating their house, we're taking care of their plants, which is a win-win in my book. One of the reasons we really loved this house is because of it's just really well constructed. The floors are thick, sound doesn't carry, and that's a really important thing when you're living with a bunch of people. And I also liked the fact that there was this isolation between rooms. I'm on the ground floor, I have it to myself, which is nice, and then there are just 2 rooms per floor, but the staircase is separate. So again, if you're in that mood where you just want your own time and your own space, you've had a really long day, you can just go home and you don't have to interact, but of course, it's here when you want it, so it's a really great balance. I started a communal home in 2015 in New York, and Josley Carvalho was our landlady. She's a Brazilian artist, and she's incredibly talented. She has stuff in MoMA and the permanent collection and all of this, but it's hard to find landlords that are willing to take a chance on a group like us, and so she was, and we're always grateful. I love one of the things she always said, if you ever break a glass at a dinner party, keep it and don't wash it. And she uses it in her art exhibits. So we provided many broken glasses to her. I have one of her pieces downstairs I'll show you, which is a really big deal for me to have a Julie Carvalho original. So we call our house Bebop. That comes from two themes. One is a lot of us like jazz and music, so bebop is this sort of frenetic kind of jazz. There's also a very popular Japanese anime called Cowboy Bebop, which is a sort of space cowboy opera that a bunch of us also like for various reasons. A bunch of us play music. We love doing jam sessions. So this is one of two pianos in the house, one of many guitars, the only trombone. This is an art project that Carrick made, and he 3D printed these coasters. They're perfectly functional as coasters, but they also have NFC chips embedded in them. So when you hold up your phone, it will automatically start playing. You'll notice it's album art. So it will, let's listen to some Fleetwood Mac, You can see the album will start playing. I can cast it to the speakers for the house. That's just a fun little art project. And we also have, Paul, our friend, has this art project which is on these screens. I think we have 4 screens in this house. You can just prompt it. It uses an AI art engine. I think this prompt was apparently the most beautiful Renaissance painting in the world. And here you can see one over here as well. And 2 more here. I'm more partial to these. What's fun about this is that this is also linked to screens in 6 other houses around the world. So when anyone changes the prompt, it will change in all the screens. And so it's this nice dialogue we have with a wider community. And sometimes you come in and you're like, what on earth is that? So we can prompt with something right now and see it change. It'll take a minute, so I'll put it in. I'm gonna say abstract expressionist dance party, and we'll see what comes up with that. This is my backgammon board. I'm very proud of it. It's I got it off of eBay, but it was some special edition at MTV. So I liked that it had both a space theme. And amusingly, I was watching home tours, and Michael Shannon, that sort of creepy actor, has the same one. So, we have that in common. I love writing postcards, and I'm always trying to encourage other people. I think it's so special to just give someone a reminder that you're thinking about them in this tangible way, which is pretty unusual these days. So we have a bunch of postcards here, and I always encourage people to write them, and then I mail in batch, various books. This is really cute. I had a birthday earlier this year, and in fact, I have a birthday every year, surprising. And so the housemates put together some favorite memories and recipes. So we have a bunch of vegetarians, so good vegetarian recipes. And then I think someone has just barbecue. But anyway, so these are various people who've stayed at the house or friends from our larger community. And it's like a disco ball. So yeah, we've been a mostly stable group since we moved in, but we had someone who was here for the first 3 months of the year and then decided he wanted to live in Manhattan, which is completely understandable. We did have one couple that broke up, and so one of the people moved out and one person stayed, and everyone's on good terms and still friends, which is great. And so I love living with people longer term if possible, but we also have people who come and visit. Again, there's this wider community of communities around the world, so there's a good guest program, and it's always really fun to see someone who I've stayed with in San Francisco come and host them here. And the abstract expressionist dance party is now on the screens. And this is also from really soon after we moved in. This was the marathon watch day we went out. So it's always the New York City Marathon is one of my favorite events, just so impressive. This is great. This is a screen, little app that Carrick made that is, it just shows when the next subway, when you need to leave to catch the next subway. So we have the G train going south. You would need to leave in a minute to get there on time. If you're trying to go to Williamsburg, it's 7 minutes. And so we just have the G and C on there, even though we actually live next to 10 different subway lines, but these were the most relevant to Carrick, I guess. And it looks like someone else changed it again to something spreadsheet related. I don't know. But this is the fun of it, you never really know what's going to come up. We have our 3D printer, try and organize things. Labeling is like one of my love languages. And so, 3D printer things, candles, whatever, This is one of those things that you're supposed to put back into a cube. I find it very frustrating. Carrick also found it frustrating, and then he just wrote a program to solve it, and we came home and it was in the perfect cube, but it didn't stay that way long. And just materials for easy hosting. I feel like there are so many misconceptions about communal homes. I think my dad certainly thinks that we're in this sort of delayed adolescence, that we haven't grown up or something. And I think that I know a lot of people in communal homes who are married, who have kids, who start businesses. I think the concept that you need to have your own place as this sort of step to adulthood, I just don't buy into that. I also think everyone thinks that communal living is for extroverts. And I hear a lot of people say, I just need my own space. I just need to come home and be alone. And I really appreciate my own space as well. I actually consider myself an introvert, and I have that in my bedroom. I have my private space that is just mine and I can retreat to when I want. But I also find it really a joy to be around people that I'm very close to, that I know well, and I don't find that draining in the same way that I think a lot of people find being around a larger group of people. And in many ways I find it restorative, because I can have a cup of tea with someone and talk about something that's on my mind, or listen to how their day went, and it's a really, really wonderful way to live. Everyone's heard of this loneliness crisis that we're in, and you can just choose to share your home with people, and then it's a lot less lonely. The cast of characters at the house, we are 5 people. So Carrick is the one who signed the lease with me initially and signed on. So he works at Anthropic, which is an AI company. And Fatima, I met through the Sonic Sphere, which was this large-scale artwork that we both worked on. She was the CTO of the project. She was at Google before, she's at another AI company now, and she is a brilliant technologist. Taylor works for a philanthropy advisory and specializes in climate, but I don't know if you've heard, you're not allowed to say climate anymore, so I don't know. I think she focuses on agriculture. And Tina, she founded a startup, and now she is working for another tech startup. And she's from Finland. So Fatima's from Iran, Tina's from Finland, Taylor and Carrick and I are all from the US, although Taylor lived in Rome for 9 years. So now we're gonna visit Carrick's room, but also please admire our very gorgeous pothos. You can leave notes for him.
Hey,
Hey,
how's it going?
here we go.
Hey, so I'm Carrick. This is my room. My favorite part about the room is this beautiful view into the backyard, and kind of when I was designing the space, I wanted to create a sense of continuity between this greenery outside and the room in here. So that's why I have a lot of green accents, wood tones, and a lot of plants. When I was designing the space, I had just gotten back from a trip to Puerto Rico in the rainforest, and ever since I was a kid, I had these books full of pictures of the rainforest and the animals there, and it had this sense of mystique for me, and that's was kind of my inspiration in designing the space. Yeah, so this was actually pretty much my first foray into communal living. I briefly lived with another communal living house for a couple months before this, but I was kind of jumping off the deep end by signing a lease and putting up a big financial commitment. I've been thinking about doing it for a while, and I'd actually been reading Gillian's blog, which is great. It's called Super Nuclear, and I was before I even met Gillian, I was plotting moving into my kind of starting my own house, and then when I found out that Gillian also wanted to start a house in the same neighborhood, I was super excited.
Yeah, it was a pretty fortuitous match. It was also funny because I saw this house and I pitched the landlords, and they were, I think, kind of politely hell no, why would we do this? But then came back a month later with Carrick, and I think that made them a little bit more comfortable because they had a little bit more idea of who else was going to be involved. And so, our broker also was really great, and I think she advocated for us. And the fact that I've been doing this for a long time, and that all of my previous landlords can say that we've never missed rent, and that I write a blog about this, and that we are not trying to create a party house. We're not trying to run an illegal Airbnb. Like, we just like to live together.
Yeah. I think music is a big theme at the house. Like, all of us or most of us are musical in some way. Gillian plays the piano. I've been learning the guitar, and I like to sing. But both of us sing, actually. And
Carrick has an amazing voice.
Oh yeah, thank
Much
you.
better than mine.
Yeah. We've actually we have had a friend staying with us for the past few weeks who was formerly a professional musician, and we've been doing a lot of music jams with him. It's been really great. We also, I think, food is like a big source of communal interest in the house. Or it's a thing that brings people together. We all really like to cook, and when you cook for people, it just gives them a reason to come together, and so food creates community.
I mean, my favorite room is just the kitchen. The kitchen dining room, I love the amount of light it gets. I love the way it is throughout the day. I love that we have this little disco ball outside that I showed you that catches the light sometimes and brings that element in. Oh, I think actually we didn't have the neon. We have a sort of a house mascot that's called Knife Cat. It's a little neon sign. I'll turn it on downstairs.
I think my favorite space in the house is the living room, because that's where I feel most at home, like gathering with my friends. We have this giant couch. It's super comfy. People can lounge around, and we have all the instruments there. It's where people jam. It's where people drink tea, talk, watch movies. It's really welcoming space. Gillian is kind of the social center of the house. Gillian is constantly bringing great people into the space. She has so many good friends, and because she's an awesome person. Awesome people attract awesome people, and that's really been huge for the house. Gillian's also an amazing cook, so she also makes great food for the house, and she has a pretty wicked sense of design. I really love what she's done with her bedroom.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I love what you've done with your bedroom. I don't know.
Thank you.
It's really cute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, Carrick is all of those things, and a great curator of people as well, but also can fix anything and is so creative. And I've already shown you some of his projects, from the musical coasters and the 3D printer. And, I love that where someone might order something off Amazon, Carrick will just design in CAD and print something here at home. And I find that so inspiring, and I have so much to learn from Carrick. So
this is a little project I worked on in the house. I love doing 3D printing and kind of custom designing solutions to solve problems. So in this case, we had this metal ladder which has these very painful thin rungs, but we want people to go up to the roof because the roof is nice, and we want people to feel welcome going up there. So I made these little steps, and see them popping off. So I made these 3D printed steps that snap into the ladder that you can step onto, and it makes it more comfortable to go up.
Okay, so I think one of the main questions that people ask about communal living is, how do you deal with conflict, and how do you deal with all the bad things that happen? And I think that's mostly because people are hearkening back to the last time a lot of people had roommates was maybe in their 20s or in college. And, it's true that many of us, when we were 19 or 20, might not have been the most responsible, might not have been the best roommates. And so people still have this idea that if you live with other adults, that they're going to finish your milk and they're not going to clean up after themselves or something like this. And in my 10 years of experience living in homes, that almost never happens. And large conflict almost never happens. I think because as long as you choose people well, choose people who are, intentionally excited about living this way, you end up with kind of abundance of the commons instead of tragedy of the commons.
Hi, welcome to my room. This is the part of a one-bedroom apartment at the top of the building, and I have this was called media room when we got the place, but it also has a little kitchenette and the laundry, and it's part of the apartment, and Carrick has the other room with the master suite. I really love my room. I think it's one of the more popular rooms in the house because of the lighting that it gets. So when the sun comes out, it just goes through. I'm pretty minimalist in the way that I decorate my room. I do want to get a couple of paintings, but for now plants are my focus, and also I like to have colorful lights, LED lights in my room. So if you come here at night, I have my galaxy lights on and a couple of LEDs, and it's very vibey. I also decided to get a couch because when we moved here, sometimes people like to use different spaces. So I like it when people come and visit my room. And sometimes I have a water boiler here and I make them tea and they come read their book or we chit chat. So it's nice to have a separate space to go to. In terms of my objects, I just got this table. It was made by a person in Brooklyn. They made it themselves and I got it from Marketplace. I really love it. It's just so cute. And some of the stuff I bought myself, some of the stuff I get from my friends. So I like to mix and match. Oh, I love communal living. I was telling Gillian that my parents were transplant from a smaller city in Tehran, so we always had family coming and visiting us. Sometimes I shared my room, sometimes they used other rooms. And I lived for a little bit by myself in New York City, and it was an experience. It was nice, but when the night comes and I want to have my dinner, I would rather have dinner with my friends, which are like my chosen family here. And I was looking to do it myself before I knew it was a concept that existed. So I lived with a couple of friends, but then when I met Gillian, I was all for it. It's great. We met working on a actually incredible art project that was showed in the shed at Hudson Arts, and we worked there together. And then after we were done, I love this story because Gillian walked to me and told me that, hey, I want to be friends, but I want to be friends for real. I'm going to follow up with you, and it's not just like a casual offer. And she actually did. She invited me to her Puerto Rico house, and I went there and stayed for a week for my birthday week. It was great. And then I lived at Puerto Rico for like almost 5 or 6 months, back and forth.
Yeah, that's the thing. You hook them with a week, and then they come for real.
And so when she was looking for a place here in New York and she said that, hey, I found this house, do you want to jump on? I was like, yes. And that's how it happened.
Fatima is like the most sunny disposition person I know. You know, she's just always brings joy into a room and is also the kind of friend who is always going to check in on you. We've both had some things happen in our lives in the last year that it's been really nice to be able to be there for each other. And I just appreciate Fatima's positive outlook and playfulness, and she's very good at sort of pranky energy as well.
When I first met Gillian, she walked into a warehouse that we were building a workshop for the Sphere, and she's a very graceful woman with like a very composed energy. And she went right to the handsaw machine that we were using to build some of our lighting. And I'm like, the transfer from like graceful woman to now I'm chopping the things.
I love power tools.
Yeah, she loves power tools. So yeah, that was amazing. And also, I love the way she runs the house. I never felt pressured about anything at the house. Gillian's very good at expressing her wants and her wishes, but also leaving room for everybody else to express theirs and like coming up with a solution that works for everybody. And for me personally, it's been a great experience just watching her do this very effortlessly.
It's funny, I never like to think that I don't think that I run the house. I feel like the house really takes care of itself. Yes, Carrick and I are the two who are on the lease and ultimately responsible. So in that sense, I guess we run it. But yeah. It really is everyone, and Fatima's great at organizing things, and we all have worked on acquiring and decorating and figuring out what we want to do together. So it feels like a collaborative project, not like something that I run.
That is true. And you have more experience in co-living space, and I think that's why naturally you fill in the gaps, which we are also trying to be more active and be more equal in that sense.
No, it's great. And, you know, it helps to write a blog about this. And so there are always also sometimes you're just like, oh, we can just put this article in the chat and then discuss it.
Yeah.
The house is technically a single family home with a 1-bedroom apartment on top. And the owners, our landlords, who are absolutely lovely, they raised their kids here and they use the 1-bedroom on top as I think a nanny, like in-law or unit. I don't know what the correct term is for that. And so we ended up transforming it a little bit. You'll see in a moment. The top floor, it was a one-bedroom apartment, but it was just two really big rooms, and we didn't need a second living room, so we actually transformed the living room of that into another bedroom. So it's kind of funny, Fatima has a sort of full kitchen and laundry machine in her bedroom, which is also kind of convenient. And so there are two bedrooms on the top floor, two bedrooms on the middle floor, and I'm on the garden level, the ground floor. And then the kitchen and living room are here on the second floor. So this is the foyer of the house. This is an amazing Argentinian artist, Chiara Macozzi. She focuses sort of on our internal dialogue and the stories we tell ourselves about our body, and her process involves, she usually takes portraits, nudes for the most part, of women and encourages them to feel into their body, and then she creates collages and photographs and then paints. So we have a few of her works throughout the house. And we are a shoes-off house, which really helps with cleanliness. It's funny now when I go back to my parents' place and I'm like, wait, we just walk around in the sneakers we were wearing on the street? How bizarre. So that's very useful. So we're a shoes-off house, which really helps with cleanliness. And if you want slippers, we have spares and we clean them regularly, just so you know. Welcome to my room. There are so many things I love this. First is just how much space I have. I feel really lucky. This is New York City, and I have basically half this floor, king-size bed, and I also get to, the garden is accessible to everyone. They can walk down from the patio, but it sort of feels like my private oasis, so we can go out there later. When I was decorating this space, almost everything is like a Facebook Marketplace find, and I knew I wanted a giant rug, and I found this Moroccan rug. I even found, bougie sheets are nice, but they're so expensive. So this is like a $600 sheet set that I got off Marketplace for $90, and you do a sanitizing wash, it's fine. I don't think that's anything wrong with that, but having those two sort of anchored the color scheme for the room in this sort of warm, earthy brown and green, which wasn't my, I built off from there. And I kept an eye on Marketplace for months, because I wanted a piano that was recently tuned and actually used, and that was a good brand. Everett was bought by Yamaha, I think, and they're just good quality pianos. I love to play. And for me, I've had electric pianos in a few of my places in my adult life, but I was like, it's time for a real piano. And because I'm 2 floors away from anyone else's bedroom, I can play anytime I want, which is really amazing. So I can play at 2 in the morning if I feel like it. And so I'm always learning new pieces, and I love being able to do that. I love these antique pieces, and this was also kind of cool that we kind of kept the roll top going through. Again, just a Facebook Marketplace find. And the art is a collection of things that I've loved over the years, and also some local artists. So this is Caroline Gilbert, who lives in another communal house, a collective in Crown Heights called Crown Studios. It's all artists. And so she does this incredible like folded cloth work. This is Uzo, who is a Brooklyn-based artist. I have 2 of her pieces. That's a print of Chiara's, and this is another one of Chiara Macozzi's paintings, which I also love. I lived in Puerto Rico for 5 years, and so a lot of the greenery reminds me of that. This is a really beautiful watercolor painting from Belgian school. It's from 1853. It's a piece that was given to me by a friend, and it is cherished. And Boris Buchan is a Czech artist, I believe, and these are all from Poster House, which is one of my favorite museums in New York. It's a perfect hour to 2 hour, like you can go on a lunch break. It's a really nice sort of short thing, and they always have great exhibitions. So these are opera posters that he did. I believe, I forget which one this one is. We have Othello, and down there La Traviata, and this is Lysistrata. I was briefly an opera singer, so that's also nice to be able to bring through. And another disco ball. This also has lights I can turn on, you know. This is also from Poster House. I need to get a better frame for it, but it was, I love just going to thrift stores and getting frames. You get really high quality frames for next to nothing, and then you can just replace the art. I love that this is, you know, New York established 1624. And I am so excited to be a New Yorker and to continue to build this city into the future. I don't love my desk. I'll replace it sometime. You know, it's always a process. I do love my kneeling chair. It's really good for posture. I was talking about my old landlady, Josie Carvalho. She was the one who took a chance on this weird group of 20-somethings at the time who wanted to rent the top half of her brownstone. This is a self-portrait of hers. I like that it both is very nature-based, but also kind of looks like she's in a spacesuit, like looking out into exploring the cosmos. And also, so I write a postcard every day to someone. I have since I was 19 years old. And so this is a small part of my postcard collection. And it's fun because I have postcards from all sorts of different places I've been in the world. That's Afghanistan. This is Tajikistan, Uzbekistan. I'm just showing you all the stands for some reason. But also different things. But there is an amazing, the Metropolitan Postcard Club is an amazing organization, and they do fairs in New York City, and it's the people who collect postcards are called deltiologists. And so I go and look at some of the old cards, but then what's incredible about this, so, you know, this one was $5, but you can see it's 1 cent is the stamp. So I looked up when stamps were one, and it's just kind of cute. It's this, you know, 2 lovers in a hammock. So postcards cost 1 cent to send between 1898 and 1917. So I know that this postcard is from that era. And then some of the postcards you'll see they're 2 cents, and then you can say, okay, then that was between 1917 and 1920, and you know, that kind of thing. And then some of the postcards are just totally random, and some of them are just pictures of friends. This is Taylor and our friend Johnny in Puerto Rico. This is an artist, a Puerto Rico-based artist named Ivana Terrazza. And I have a lot of her pieces. This is from a calendar of hers, but she mixes anatomical drawings and nature. So, you know, a heart butterfly, also, you know, February. I was very in love in February, you know, and various things. So I've purchased a few of her. I have one of her originals in Puerto Rico and then a bunch of her prints around here. So yeah, send postcards to friends. It's fun. I love my reading chair. And this, another Facebook Marketplace find, this lamp. It's actually West Elm, which I think was almost disappointing. I thought it would be more original. And some of my reading material, Jerusalem Demzis is great. She's a journalist, writes about the housing crisis. And this was given to me by a friend. I haven't gotten into it yet, but the fight for social housing in New American Commons feels relevant. This carpet also, this is a really beautiful antique Azerbaijani carpet. I love having my toes in it, and it was given to me by a really brilliant woman named Christy Quirk. When I lived in Istanbul, I lived in Turkey for 3 years, and I was working as a consultant, and she was too, but like she was one of those consultants that was definitely a spy. And she also had a great blog called Carpet Blogger, and she was a compulsive carpet collector, and one time I was hanging out with her and she just decided to give me this one, which I'm very grateful for. And I was kind of nomadic for 10 years. I moved between communal homes, but I almost never had a fixed address or a specific room that was mine. And so the only possession that I kept with me through that time was this rug. So this rug has been with me in many, many places around the world. Okay, so we're going out to the garden. Welcome. It's disco hour, as you can see, which always, again, brings me a lot of joy. We've been trying to populate it with native plants. My friend Jen Wong, who now works at the Brooklyn Botanic Garden, she helped us choose what to plant here. And I remember, and we planted when we moved in last fall, And I was really distressed a week later because I noticed that one of the plants was all eaten up and had all these kind of caterpillars on it. And she's like, no, that's actually great. Those are, that is a local species of butterfly that relies on this plant for food. And so the fact that you can plant something and a week later the native species has already found it and is, creating butterflies seems kind of amazing. The deck boards are variously rotting through and then we just replace them, and so that's why we have this hybrid look. I'd like to revamp this entirely, but we're renters and we're trying to figure out what the right level of investment will be. But it's still, even if it's a little down at the mouth, it's still very cozy. And it is beautifully lit in the nighttime. Our landlords did an amazing job of building that in, so there are nice little spotlights. And we have all the infrastructure for hosting here, so we love setting up either just one table, or we can even do a U shape and seat about 20 people here. And we had a really memorable Easter brunch. And we'll do occasionally, once a quarter or once every couple of months, we'll have a nice big. Tina is an amazing paella chef, and so we love using that and using the grill upstairs as well. I feel so unbelievably lucky to have this amount of greenery in my home in New York City. So many people say, oh, I couldn't live in New York because there's not enough nature, and we just have like a full tree canopy. This tree was actually planted by our landlords, the family that lived here before, and it's crazy how quickly it's grown. It has these beautiful blossoms in the spring. We don't actually have any kind of specific, we don't have a chore wheel, we don't have a schedule that we adhere to. I love to cook. Many people in the house love to cook, and so organically we end up eating a few meals a week together usually. And there's some that have kind of, Sunday brunches are always nice, Friday night, Shabbat, some of the house is Jewish, some is not, so, and so I guess those are the most common things we do. There have been some fun, we've had some more formal dinner parties, and we've also, Taylor and Tina have started a small practice of what's called sad boy yoga, which is where Tina, who is a newly trained, trained by our friend Paul to be an amazing DJ, and so Tina DJs sort of lo-fi sad boy music, and Taylor leads a yoga session, and it's been really fun. I feel like I always learn so much from my roommates. I learn about new artists, I learn about new music, I learn about new ways to get stains out of clothes. Like there's a lot of practical knowledge that's just exchanged that, might not come up in normal conversation. And I do feel like every day I learn to be a better communicator. I think you do have to learn how to voice your needs and your boundaries and things like this. Not that I feel particularly challenged, but it's just we have this concept, we say, like, bring it up when it's a 1 on a scale of 10. Don't wait till it's a 9 out of 10. Like, don't hold things in. Just say, like, hey, actually, I am really in a mood where I really just want to read The New Yorker and sip my coffee right now and don't want to talk. Almost all of the time you don't have to specify something like that, but it's also nice to be able to say something like that and not offend the person and everyone, we're comfortable enough with each other that we can set those boundaries, which is nice. This is our kitchen. This is my favorite room in the house. Also, one thing that's really nice, this furniture actually came from Gramercy, from our old Brownstone from 2015. So that house, we started in 2015. It lasted until the landlord sold it in 2022. And I contacted one of the people that was there at the end, and I said, whatever happened to all that furniture? And he's like, well, it's in a storage unit in Jersey. I would love to stop paying the fees on it. And I was like, perfect. And so, we budgeted a certain amount to be able to furnish the house, and we got to have that because we got the dining room table, chairs, some couches, and it just feels really wonderful to have that continuity to the communal house history. We have these felt panels from Felt-Rite. It is so useful for dulling noise. This is a pretty live room, And if we ever have more people at a dinner party than 6, it's nice to be able to have something that sort of sucks some of the sound out. I love this fridge, not only because we can write notes on it. Sometimes it's just, what needs to be picked up, but it also ends up with lots of art and messages. We kept it clean for you. But also my favorite feature is this is a water jug that you can pour out and it refills itself. Genius. So we usually say if you're cooking something, just default cook 4 times as much as you would normally. And it's also fun sometimes if you say like, I'm cooking a miso pesto pasta or something, and someone else might say, oh, I'll make some steak or I'll make a salad. And so all of a sudden you get this really nice balanced meal where you might have just, it would have been too time consuming to make all of that yourself. And I mean, I've ordered from DoorDash 3 times in my life, and I am pretty proud of that. And I feel like I continuously have this fresh supply of delicious food. It's also nice because there's always someone going to the grocery store. So, I go to the grocery store maybe once a week, or I go to the farmer's market and I'll say, any requests. But also someone is probably going almost every day. Someone's saying, okay, I'm going to Whole Foods. What do you need? And I can say, oh, get that yogurt I like. So there's just so much time saved. I briefly lived in a 1-bedroom last summer because I just wanted to gut check, like, am I missing something? And it was so lonely and so time consuming. You have to do all of the cooking and all of the cleaning and all of the shopping yourself. And that's like, it takes a lot of time, that domestic labor. And here I'm doing, only a fraction of that, which is nice. So it's just really useful to have labels. I might not be like the most aesthetically pleasing. I would take tips if anyone has ideas, but it's just nice to know where everything is. And if we have friends coming over for cooking and helping and hanging out. This is our pantry, which is a great space saver. I wish it were tidier, but just forgive us. But it's just stupid puns, like make it grain and you're nuts. So I'm going to show you our patio, but I love this. We have these communal Crocs. I generally, we don't share clothes or stuff that much, but the Crocs are universal. And they're also from Live Near Friends, which is, so I co-write this blog, Super Nuclear, about communal living. That's what's being turned into a book. My co-founder started a company called Live Near Friends. And so he sent us these Crocs. The idea is that you want to live within Croc distance of your friends. Even if you don't live in the same house, it's nice. Maybe you live down the street, but you can just throw on some Crocs. We have a gas barbecue, which is great. More of the plants from the other communal house that's being renovated. But we also have a bunch of compost plants. So this, I think, is a tomato. We'll see. But that just grew out of our compost. This is a squash for sure. It has a little blossom, so that'll be coming along. And we have some green onions and some other things. It could be healthier, but it's a start. What's nice is at a certain point in the day, it'll catch the light and we'll just get this like little ambient sparkle, which brings a lot of joy.
Hey, welcome. My name is Ravel, and this is the room of my girlfriend Tina, who lives here in this house, and I'm her boyfriend. I'm visiting from Germany, actually, and yeah, I fly in from Europe every once in a while, and I spend a few weeks here. And yeah, this is Tina's room. She moved in October of last year. And as you see, it's like a very cozy space, but with the right furniture. It serves all needs, like a small space, like a small desk to work. What I like about this house and about the communal living in general, that it's very open. People are very familiar with each other. Being from Germany or Europe, where this kind of concept does not really exist, it's great to see that you have so many like opportunities to meet new people, and there's a lot of dinners and other gatherings of people, and there's a lot of activity in general, like social activities, which I enjoy a lot and which is very inspiring to me. The house is very large. Now there's enough space to be private when you want it and be social. When you want to be around other people and have conversations about what life brings and what life is about. And I mean, when we are in New York and you have these very high rents and the real estate market is very complex and just very, very expensive, I think this kind of living together is very rewarding because you share costs, you share living space, and you're able to afford a very high quality of living together while being able to manage the costs, right? And I think that's a very good model for this kind of environment that we're living in.
For me, a home is where we spend the most time. And there's also this concept that the 5 people that you spend the most time with are going to be the ones who shape you. And so for me, it's important to be sharing my space with, naturally these are going to be the people who are going to shape my life. And I am continually inspired and supported and given opportunities to be supportive to my housemates. And I think that's a key part of the human experience, and I feel lucky to have that. Thanks for coming, Homeworthy. It was so fun to show you our communal home in Brooklyn, and hope to see you again sometime. Take care. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.